Welcome to the Fight with Depression. My name is Christopher Boussard, firefighter and author of The Fight, My Battle with Depression. Welcome, and thank you for joining me on The Fight with Depression. This is episode 1 of what will hopefully be several to come. In this episode, I'd like to just give you a background of how I got to the point of starting my website, starting this podcast, tell you a bit about who I am, why I am doing what I am doing, and what my hopes and goals are. So, a brief history of who I am. I'd like to start by saying I'm not a counselor or a psychiatrist. I have suffered from depression, anxiety, and obsessive compulsive disorder my entire life. But if you suffer from a mental illness, please seek care from a mental health professional before trying to do anything on your own. I didn't want people to know or to notice or to judge me, so I kept everything hidden. It wasn't until I was in high school I took a psychology class and we started talking about different neurotic behaviors. And when they started talking about some of those things, I recognized some of those traits in myself. Specifically, it was obsessive compulsive disorder that when we really got into that, I thought what I did was just very strange. And it wasn't until then that I realized that there was a name for what I had, there was a name for what I did, but the biggest part was I wasn't alone. So even though I didn't know what it was, growing up with depression, I always had a desire to overcome, to make a difference, and I had this desire to be a hero. I didn't know how, but I wanted to help people. So I write about this a little bit more in depth in my book, but I was in college on September 11th, 2001, after I saw what was going on in our country and what the first responders were dealing with and their call to action. I felt called to join the fire service. So I didn't go back to college the next semester. I went home and I joined the fire service as a volunteer. I'm now coming up on 20 years in the fire service. Since then, I met and married my wife of almost 15 years. We had 3 funny and amazing children. But I've experienced many things in that time, both inside and outside of the fire service. I've seen a lot of people struggle, and I've seen a lot of people give up hope and give up on life. So how I got to where I am, I felt that I couldn't sit back and watch as people struggle. We're called to use our talents to help people. But what if all of these talents aren't necessarily positive? We think of our God-given talents, but what if some of those talents are thorns? In my book, I write about depression being a gift and a curse. I started a blog as a way to give hope to people whose hope is dwindling. But for me, the blog wasn't enough, so I decided to set aside my pride and write a book, which I had self-published. But I became discouraged because it wasn't going as well as I was hoping, and I wanted to give up on getting my story out there. But I kept feeling called to keep pressing forward and to keep growing. I changed my blog to a website with a goal to continue to provide hope. And in the mindset of continued growth, I decided to start a podcast to reach as many people as possible. So my hopes and my goals, I wanted to use my podcast and my website to encourage and to give hope to others. I wanted to use my website to give people ways in which they can reduce their symptoms. It's not a cure, and I'm going to talk about this more in future episodes. And I want to overcome the stigma of mental illness. I want to educate people who don't live with this to be able to understand their loved ones. So if you'd like to continue listening to future episodes, please subscribe and check out my website at thefightwithdepression.com. I don't ask for any donations or anything else. I just want to educate and give hope. Check out my blog posts on my website. There's a link to my book. There's a link to my Facebook page. If you want to get in touch with me at all, questions or suggestions for future episodes or blog posts, go to my contact page. All emails will go directly to me. And please hold on to hope, because there's always hope. So go out there and live life better today than you did yesterday. And until next time, God bless.